everyone, and welcome to the DevMar Debugged podcast, where experts from top companies all over the world share their insights on everything developer marketing. So today we're joined by Rakesh Goyal, founder and CEO of Velt. In this episode, we're discussing how to scale messaging and positioning when going to market. But before that, so hi Rakesh, great to have you.
Hey Teresa, thanks for having me.
Yep, great. So before we dive into this topic, can you just first tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. I'm Rakesh. Before this, I started my career at Google. I just a little history about how I got into tech and how I got into doing what I'm doing. So I started my career at Google as a customer support rep, and then soon started learning how to code. Then built a bunch of internal tools for a few years, and then switched to product management, where I worked on a bunch of different product teams, starting with next billion users to access, and then finally augmented reality. But the last product that I shipped at Google was Live View in Google Maps. And after that, I left, and I wanted to always build something on my own to create more value in the world. So I started working on Velt. And right now, I'm the founder and CEO of a YC-backed startup called Velt.
Oh, great. And so what do you do at the moment? What does Velt do?
Yeah, so with Velt, we are on a mission to make the internet more collaborative and more multiplayer. So when I left Google, I realized that at Google, I was mostly using tools like Google Docs and Sheets, which were already very collaborative. But outside, I was really surprised to see that most tools are not like that. You have to constantly take screenshots to work with other people. So I wanted to change that. It just didn't make sense to me, especially like when COVID hit, most people were working remotely. So working together became really challenging. And what I wanted to do was blur the boundaries between in-person experiences and online experiences. How do we get them as close as possible? So with Welt, we provide an SDK that other developers can add to their product, and they can bring Figma or Google Docs style collaboration into their own apps. In the past, historically, these experiences were really hard to build. Only big giants like Google or Figma could afford it. But now any developer can just add those collaborative experiences with a few lines of code.
Oh, that's amazing. Great product then. And how did you decide to kind of just focus on that persona, developers?
Yeah, so we realized that to make the internet more collaborative, there were just like three paths in front of us. The first path was giving a piece of software to all users on the internet, where they can download a software and they can collaborate on anything on the internet. The second was, what if we give that software to developers so that they can make their apps that everyone consumes on the internet? They can make those apps collaborative. And the third was to just build a new browser that whatever you consume within the browser is collaborative. So I realized after a bit of doing research and talking to customers, and I've worked with the Chrome team in the past. So I realized the first and the last path were not very feasible. So giving that power to the developers where they can bring powerful collaboration experiences can really move the internet to becoming more collaborative. If the apps are natively more collaborative, then the kind of experiences you can enable, the one that I said, where you can blur the boundaries between in-person and online experiences, that can only happen when you are intimately connected to the app's data and you are sitting inside the app. So developers just made total sense for us.
Yeah, no, completely. Thank you for that. I was also wondering, you mentioned, the titans, Google, and before only those big companies were able to do all these, amazing things and create these products. So, starting something for yourself, how hard was it then to kind of get it right? We circling to the topic of today, positioning, messaging. So how important was that to just nail it from the start?
It was quite challenging. Initially, we started with like our first path, like, can we give a piece of software to everyone on the internet? So we built a Chrome extension and we realized that um, it's not going to work. Like you cannot enable a great experience from there. So we, after a bit of iteration, we realized that if we want to really provide powerful experience that blurs the boundaries between in-person and online experiences, then you have to sit inside the app. So over time, like like the only way you can iterate fast and in the right direction is by talking to customers, by observing what they're doing and what challenges they're facing. So we sat into like hundreds of customer interviews and saw what challenges they were facing. And we realized that for someone to build this multiplayer collaboration experiences, it requires them to set up a specific backend infrastructure, and it requires them to hire specific engineers that have deep knowledge of like how WebSockets or uh, how the DOM behaves, like the modern web APIs behave. So those things are hard. Like those things are different than their core. If you're building a dashboarding tool, you don't need to learn any of these things. But if a dashboarding tool requires collaboration to be built, they need to hire different kinds of engineers. They need to set up a different kind of infrastructure. Then that's a lot of money, a lot of resources. So over time, like by understanding the market a bit more, we were able to pivot our product into being more focused on developers.
Right. And, considering such a saturated market, how did you find, kind of creating that messaging that stands out from, everything that's out there? So you focus on your USP, targeting developers, but how else did you go about it?
Yeah. So let me tell you about like the second product that we have, which is where like um, this whole thing about like iterating on the messaging can become clear. So we have a secondary product called Superflow that helps marketing teams and developers to comment and collaborate on their websites or web apps in the staging environment before they push it out to prod. Mm-hmm. So for that one, we had we had come up with a messaging that was very broad. We initially just focused on the value that on a landing page, we said something like, use Superflow to iterate and ship your websites 10x faster. And we realized that it was too broad. People didn't know what to make out of that. Like, what is the product? What does it do? So again, like after talking to customers, after observing sessions, we realized that we were getting the wrong kind of crowd, where maybe people thought that this would help them do experimentation. So then we changed the messaging to comment and collaborate on live, or comment and collaborate on websites. Then it was slightly better. Again, by talking to customers, we realized that maybe this will resonate more with the customers. So then we started seeing that when we spoke to more customers, they told us that I already use Figma for collaborating on my websites. Why do I need this? Then we realized that maybe people don't know. It's not clear that this is supposed to be used after you have shipped, after you have coded your Figma files into a working prototype. Only then you can use Superflow. So then we added a few words like comment and collaborate on live websites. We added the word live, which further narrowed down the audience, that this is not for designers who are working on Figma, but this is more for developers and marketers who are reviewing the websites on the staging environments. So over time, like we just kept tweaking the messaging based on like how the incoming traffic was. We assessed the quality of the traffic, like who was signing up. We went to the LinkedIn profiles and we saw that what kind of people are signing up. Is it more like marketers and developers, or is it more like designers who mainly work on things like Figma? So, but just by talking to users and observing the traffic data, we started modifying the messaging a lot on our landing page. And now the messaging that we have, we see that it resonates really well with our customers.
Well, that's amazing. So basically just keeping the customer in mind at all times and actually talking to them since they'll be the ones using the product. I know it's like seems like a simple message, but I feel like maybe not everyone, keeps that in mind. So really good.
Yeah, and initially it was hard to just catch hold of customers who would be willing to talk to you. So it's just a numbers game. You reach out to 100 people, maybe 5 people will be willing to talk to you and spend that 30 minutes with you to help you understand what's going wrong. So that really helps. The second tool in your toolkit could be something like PostHog, where you can install a script on your landing page and see what people are doing on the landing page. You can just observe the sessions visually. So you can see like, are people getting confused or not? Which part are they getting confused on? And of course, the third one is if people sign up, you have the email addresses, you have the names, you can go and search for them on LinkedIn and figure out like, what is their profile? Is this the right persona that you hoped for? If not, then you go back and just like modify your messaging.
No, lots of good tips there. Thank you. And did you actually find it that difficult to target both developers and marketers? Because, very different audiences. Was that a challenge?
Yes, it was a challenge initially, but then we started just like updating a landing page to create specific persona. Like for Superflow, if you go to our website, you'll see that we've kept the key value, the key jobs to be done, that either like both marketers and developers are getting the same jobs to be done from the product. But then we have specific persona pages that directly speaks to these audiences. So that helps. When a developer comes to the website, they can just like go to their persona page and see what they can get out of the tool. And same for marketers. Our primary audience here, like we were torn, like, should we talk about marketers as the primary one or developers as the primary one? At least for Superflow, we saw that it's the marketers who are decision makers here, who are who are investigating or searching for these tools more. So on our main landing page, we cater the messaging to marketers. And on our secondary landing pages, we have different personas like founders or developers and like product managers who can still understand what the tool is for.
No, nice. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Kind of just since they're already the person, just having them there. Yeah, good idea. And what about expanding? So as you're growing, for example, how can people kind of maintain, the messaging consistent, kind of making sure they don't lose track of things? How did you find that?
So for that one, like as your product is growing, as you want to target adjacent markets, like for us as well, for example, in Superflow, we started with websites and now we are expanding to PDFs, videos, animations, and all those things. So if you want to be like the one-stop shop where you can collaborate on your marketing or product assets, so then the messaging becomes complicated, because should we talk about websites more? Should we talk about PDFs more? If a PDF user comes to the website, will they get confused with the website messaging, with the website asset or the video asset messaging or not? So it's never easy. What I've seen is most people just screw up in this one, where if you try to target too many adjacent categories, too many user personas, you almost always don't do a good job with that. But there are few brands which have managed to do a good job. One is Google Workspace Suite, where you have Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides. They all are different products, but talk about they help you with the same jobs to be done like in your workplace. Similarly, there is Figma, which have Figma Jam and Figma's original design product. So, so we are taking cues from these brands on how they have been able to separate the messaging and how they bring different types of audiences on these two different on these different products. So we're learning from that, and we have been applying that to Superflow as well, where we have a main product which is like catering to website collaboration. That is our main landing page. And then we have started building landing pages for different products. For example, Superflow for videos, Superflow for PDFs, and they will be their separate landing page. And when we are bringing traffic to these landing pages, we are very conscious about what kind of messaging we'll put on social media or on our ads or on our SEO, so that someone who's looking for PDF, they when they come to a landing page, they are immersed into the PDF experience versus getting distracted with a video collaboration experience or a website collaboration experience. So you have to be very careful that the messaging doesn't bleed in across products, and whatever your outreach channels are, they are pointing to the right landing page. So that has worked for us, and that's what we observe has worked for other brands like Google or Figma. So we're just replicating that playbook for now.
Yeah, no, definitely another good idea. Just if it works, just kind of taking inspiration. It's like you kind of shouldn't reinvent the wheel sometimes, and it's good to kind of see what everyone else is doing, keeping an eye on.
Yeah. So one thing that I've seen that doesn't work is some people put everything on the main landing page. That you can also do video, you can also do PDF, you can also do websites, everything on the same page. And then you are just like trying to speak to everyone. You don't speak to anyone. So you just like your audience is just confused and they just bounce. So it is very challenging, and it requires a lot more resources because you need someone to build those specific landing pages, build specific onboarding flows, and build specific like social media or whatever channels you are targeting. It is very challenging and requires a lot of resources. Only when you think that you are growing and you have that money and that many people to work on it, only then it makes sense to expand into different verticals.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned that mistake, people just kind of putting everything on a page. What other mistakes have you seen people do, or just things that people should avoid if they want to put across a good message?
Yeah, so let's look at a funnel. Like one is like top of the funnel where you're doing outreach, when you're trying to bring visitors to your website. So over there, if you are constantly if you're using ads, then you have very specific targeting. You can target specific messaging to specific audiences. So that can be very precise. But when you are just doing organic social media posts or just reaching out via emails, then it becomes hard. How do you use the same account to... So one of the mistakes I've seen is like people just messaging different things every like day or every week about different personas. So you just have like those 10,000, 20,000 people following your account. So they just get confused on what is this product for. So one is that like not being very precise in the top of the funnel, which brings visitors to your platform. If you get a confused visitor coming to your platform, then they will just not be able to figure out, like, if a person, like in our case, if a person wants to collaborate on video, if they land on the website collaboration page, then they would just not understand what to do with the product. The second step in the funnel is after they sign up, from visit to sign up. The most common mistake that I see people make is combining all the onboarding flows together. So let's say if in our have video collaboration, uh, PDF collaboration, or website collaboration, if we merged all these things into one onboarding flow, it just like adds an additional step. It adds additional decision making for the user, that which one do I want, and any additional decision making or step that you add in your onboarding flow, it just like will lead to a huge amount of drop offs. We have made that mistake ourselves, and we have then separated our onboarding flows. So that's the second one. And the third one is just the product itself. If you are not able to, like, if you cram all these experiences into just one thing, into one product, then you will have a very cluttered experience. Like something that I like to call like the Starbucks experience, where, like, let's say if you go to Starbucks, you ask for a coffee, they ask you 10 questions before you can get a damn cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So that starts reflecting in your product as well. Then people, your product will give many options to users. Every step in the product will lead to a decision making, like a decision making in your user's head. Like if I'm clicking on a tool, maybe there are three options I need to choose from to just get one simple action done. So we have consciously tried to separate out experiences. For a video collaboration, there are certain things that are only applicable to video collaboration. So we only expose those features when someone is collaborating on video. For website collaboration, there are certain experiences that you only need for website. So we only expose those options when a user is on website collaboration, on the website collaboration experience.
Yeah.
So things like that are super important. And I see people make those mistakes a lot.
Right. So keeping it simple, but, kind of tailoring the experience to the person who is visiting the site and understanding who is visiting. Yeah.
Correct. And that, like, engineering wise and just like product management wise, that is really hard to do. But once you get it right, then you'll start seeing that whatever hard work you're doing to bring in the right traffic, they are converting well, and that audience is retaining on your product as well.
Yeah, and that will also make it easy then to scale. If you are narrowing it down, then you can kind of see what is working a bit more and just kind of go from there, I suppose, and not get the messaging lost. Yeah. And how about, so measuring that success, we're talking about, sometimes checking visitors and all that. Any metrics that people should take into account, for example?
Just optimizing the funnel. So break down your funnel into like 4 or 5 steps. Don't like overdo it. So for example, for us, it would be something like visitor to sign up conversion rate, then sign up to install conversion rate, or activation conversion rate, and then activation to paid conversion rate. So that's the broad funnel. I think most people should have this funnel. And then looking at each step of the funnel where the conversion rates are low, then working on one step of the funnel at a time. So let's say if your sign up to activation rate is 10%, which is pretty low, then can you do something to first like put all your effort to fix the sign up to activation rate? There can be, like, if you start breaking it down, then you will realize that maybe the quality of traffic is not good. Maybe the onboarding flow is not good. So once, like, for each of these problem statements as well, you can further ask a bunch of whys to break down the problem further and associate a metric with each of these. So in our case as well, we had to do this exercise a lot, and we still do it. We still figure out, like, which part of the funnel is broken. Once we fix that, we focus on something else. And you keep on repeating this exercise until your funnel is optimized and you're happy with the conversion rates.
Right. So it take you like a lot of trial and error to kind of narrow down those metrics and
Yeah.
figuring.
So so just two things, like breaking down your entire experience, like from visit to conversion into a 4 or 5 step funnel, and monitoring the conversion rates there, and then focusing on one step of the funnel at a time versus like focusing on the entire funnel. If you focus on the entire funnel, you're not going to move the needle anywhere.
Right. Yeah. No, thank you for that. Are there any other challenges that you faced when you're trying to, scale your messaging, scale your position, or, making sure the positioning is correct, that maybe you'd like to share?
For us, it was mostly operational. We are a very small team, so if we want to build so many landing pages, so much messaging, iterate on it, how do you do that at scale? So that has been a challenging part. I'm not saying scale like Google scale or like Figma scale. Like they have like hundreds and hundreds of landing pages that they continuously build and monitor. So for someone like us, like small stage, early stage startup, even for if you're growing, if you want like more traffic on your sites or to your product, you need to. It's like setting up this operations where like someone is building like the framework of the landing page, like the storytelling on the landing page. Then someone is designing it, and someone is uh, publishing, like creating that landing page into actual site. And then someone who is then like writing the copy, building like the design assets and all of that. So it's a lot of work. It requires many people. So figuring that out, either like hiring it in-house or hiring an agency or a freelancer to do it, and then adding multiple people uh, to create like some kind of workflow that just like can churn out a large volume of high quality websites or messaging really fast. That has been the most challenging aspect for us. Earlier, we hired 1 or 2 people who would do everything, and you soon realize that it becomes overwhelming for them to also take care of copy, also take care of the visuals, also build the website. So it just never works. So over time, we have realized that giving specific parts to like dividing the work amongst many people, like someone will just copy, someone will just make the design assets, someone will just like maybe do the Figma file and code the website. So distributing the work like this, but finding the right people who can handle and hand off the work to each other really fast is very challenging. So if like a startup can figure out this operational aspect, then scaling messaging, iterating on messaging becomes really fast. And I've seen that no one really talks about that aspect. People always talk about how to write the right message, but they don't talk about these operational aspects, the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
For us, that was the most challenging part. How do we set that up? And now we are at a stage where we feel like we have that operation set up and we have been iterating on our messaging really fast.
Yeah. People are always like the most important part of any company. Even though you have the product, I suppose without the right people, it's difficult to get the product out there. So thank you.
Right.
And do you have any final thoughts or any advice that you'd like to leave our listeners with on this topic?
Yeah, I think few things that like that can help you like grow fast or like differentiate yourself from the competition. Like one is like I would say 3 things. One is just like obsession with your customers. If you are obsessed with customers, you are observing what they're doing, you're talking to them on a regular basis, the amount of insights that you get from there, the amount of depth you get from there you just cannot beat that. Like your competition just cannot beat that at all. So that helps bring focus on what you're supposed to prioritize, and that just sharpens your product really, really fast. And the second is obsession with minute details. So for us, like we have been focused on making sure our designs and our UX are extremely beautiful. And that requires like the first point, like obsession with customers and observing data and what the customers are doing. If you fret over every detail, even like at small details as like colors and like font sizes and everything, eventually like these cumulatively like add a lot of value that like your competition or someone else would not be able to copy, like those little details. The third one is just like sheer velocity. I've observed that there are two kinds of team. One which can ship really fast, but then they have to trade off quality, or they ship high quality products, but they have to trade off speed. Startups which are very successful are outliers. They do both very well. They ship very high quality stuff very fast. So, and that's why there are only like very few startups that become unicorn.
Yep.
And if you're able to get high quality output at a high velocity, considering like you're obsessed with customers and you're obsessed with every detail, then I think you have a solid chance of making it.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of DevMar Debugged. If you want to hear more from professionals in the developer marketing world, subscribe to our podcast for more expert talks. See you on the next one.